One question I get asked all the time is, how do you read so much? In 2024, I read 75 books, and already in 2025, it's only like April 20th, I've read 30 books. Today I figured I would break down my reading habits, my reading routines, and how I fit reading into a busy schedule without it feeling like a chore. So if you're trying to read more, or you are just curious what it's like for me, you are definitely in the right place. Stick around. Also, if you love cozy bookish content like this, definitely make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, let's start off with my reading habits. These are things that I do consistently that help me read more without me really even thinking about it. Number one, I always have a book with me. Whether I'm traveling, I'm probably bringing like multiple books if I'm traveling, or if I'm just going for a car ride with my husband, taking a book, taking 2 books. I have my Kindle, which is so convenient to bring around town, to bring anywhere. If I'm going to do a grocery pickup, I'm bringing my Kindle. I'm reading in the car while I'm waiting. Literally any chance I get, I'm bringing a book with me so that way if the opportunity arises, I'm ready to go. Number 2, audiobooks. I listen to at least 1 audiobook a month. I use Spotify. I want to read more. So if anybody has any recommendations on where to read audiobooks or listen to audiobooks, let me know. But audiobooks are a game changer because it helps me be able to still accomplish things and be productive outside of reading, but still be able to read. So if I'm doing laundry, I'm doing the dishes, cleaning the house, if I am cooking, literally, if I'm doing something with my hands, I'm probably listening to an audiobook. Number 3 is something that I am trying to be more consistent with lately. I have been reading basically every morning for a very long time, but not very intentionally. Now I am giving myself 30 minutes every morning. The first thing I do, well, okay, I let the dogs out and feed them, but after that, I will grab a glass of water and my book, set a timer for 30 minutes, and I have 30 minutes to drink the glass of water, but also to read my book. Once the 30 minutes is up, I need to move on to the next thing in my routine. I started doing this and it has helped me read so much more. Starting the day off with reading, I spend like the rest of the morning and the rest of the day thinking about the book that I was reading because I read it already. I don't know, it just makes me want to pick up the book more when I read it in the morning. Number 4 is that I only read 1 book at a time. Now this is my habit and this is what works for me because I've realized if I read multiple books at one time, it's hard for me to stay focused on one. It's hard for me to know what's going on. And I just don't make a lot of progress very quickly when I am reading multiple books. Now, like I said, that's for me. For you though, you might need to read multiple books at one time. If you are like a true to your core mood reader, then maybe you are in the mood for a thriller one morning and then a romance the next. So if that's you, recognize that and incorporate that into your routine. But like I said, I like to stick to 1 book at a time, and that's just what works for me. Okay, number 5, and my last reading habit is pretty obvious, I think, at this point for any reader, but I always read before bed. This really helps to just calm me down in general. So even if I wasn't trying to read a lot of books in a year, I would still want to read before bed. It also sometimes puts me to sleep. I'm not the type of person who ends up staying up to read a book. When I'm tired, I'm tired. I have to go to sleep. So even if it's just 20 to 30 minutes before I end up going to sleep for the night, this guarantees that if I'm reading 30 minutes in the morning, 20 to 30 minutes at night, I'm getting almost an hour's worth of reading every single day without really even having to make time for it. It just is happening naturally, which I love. Okay, next I want to talk about how I'm able to make time for reading. In full transparency, I do work part-time right now, so I am not working a full 40-hour work week. So that is a really big reason why I'm able to read so much. If you are currently working a 40-hour work week, do not expect to read as many books as I do, unless you're crazy, in a good way, like good crazy. Then I'm proud of you. But even if you do have a full-time job and you are working 40 hours a week, reading a lot isn't about having a ton of free time. It's about choosing to make time and being intentional about it. So number 1, really important to know, is that I actively make reading a priority. This might seem simple, but I truly think that this is the most important tip in this entire video. It's that I choose reading over other things. Anytime I have a free moment, I ask myself, is reading a priority for me right now? I know that by 10 or 11 p.m., I am wiped out. I could fall asleep at any given moment. So for me, after dinner is the time that I end up reading the most, I would say. I make the choice every single day. I decide whether or not reading is a priority. If it is a priority, then I'm putting my phone down. I am not turning on the TV, and I'm reading. I will admit some days are better than others. Sometimes it takes me literally turning and looking at my bookshelves to remember that, like, oh yeah, reading exists and I want to do that. But most of the time I'm reading a book that's so good that it's like all I can think about. So if I've read it in the morning, it's already on my mind, like I said, and I sit down and I'm like, I need to know what's happening in this story, in this world, with my new best friends that I'm reading about, you know? Truly, reading helps me relax. Reading is my favorite form of entertainment. So when I am done with a long day after I've had dinner, I want to read. It is relaxing to me. Like, that is cozy, like peak comfort vibes. But like I said, not every day is like that. But for the most part, it really is just like what I want to do after a long day. Okay, moving on. Number 2 is to join reading challenges or buddy reads. Sometimes I love just being a mood reader, picking whatever book I want, reading whatever I want, and not putting a lot of pressure on it. But sometimes it can be fun to have a little structure. For example, recently I did a reading challenge where I let a random spinning wheel pick how many pages I read every day. That was so much fun. It was definitely a challenge, don't get me wrong, but I read 1,300 pages in 1 week, and that's way more than I would ever normally read in a week. I highly recommend doing something like that. Challenge yourself, but like in a fun way. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, but still, you know, go outside your comfort zone. There are so many content creators here on YouTube who post reading challenge videos. So if you don't want to do a spinning wheel, you could do random number generator. You could do so many other different things to participate in a reading challenge just on your own. So yeah, go look at YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever, and find a fun reading challenge that you want to do and do it. Also, bonus points if you film yourself and then post content, because it'll help keep you accountable and it's really fun. And then you can tag me in any of your content and then I can watch it too, because I'm nosy and want to know what you guys are doing. If a reading challenge seems a little too intense, I would highly recommend doing a buddy read. Grab a book bestie, grab a friend, and convince them to read a book with you. You could take turns on who picks the book, so it's fair, blah, blah, blah. But if you read the book at the same time and you kind of like determine how many pages, or there's an app, I think it's Storygraph, is where you can do a buddy read literally in the app with whoever you're buddy reading with, and you can add like updates and thoughts and comments and feelings and then attach it to a page number, so that way whoever you're reading with can't see your comment until they get to that page number. Definitely check it out. I highly recommend, but if you can meet in person, even more fun. Okay, number 3, I kind of touched on this one a little bit, but a good book isn't hard to read. So if you're struggling with convincing yourself or staying motivated in reading, maybe the book you're reading just isn't what you need right now. I'm not saying that the book you're reading is a bad book and you shouldn't read it, but what I'm saying is if you're struggling, then do yourself a favor and pick a book or find a book that has really drawn you in, that really like motivates you to keep reading without really even trying. Try to find a story that pulls you in so hard that you can't choose TV over the story because you need to know what happens. And don't forget, it's okay to DNF if you are not vibing with the book. I like doing soft DNFs where it helps me mentally be able to move on and read something else, but knowing that I can still go back to it whenever. So for example, I have a book that I started during the fall that I didn't finish it before winter started, and then winter started and I just wasn't in the mood for this fall book anymore. So I've soft DNF'd it, but I will go back to it next fall, and just knowing that I still can go back to it, I don't know. It just is comforting and it makes DNFs a little easier. All of that to say, reading really should be fun. So if you're not having fun, then try a different book. Okay, finally, let's talk about some little habits that might not seem like a big deal. These habits really add up and they make you feel like reading is just easier, more enjoyable, and honestly makes it feel like reading is part of everyday life. The first one is DNFing. Like I said, I soft DNF pretty frequently. I'm not afraid to put a book down and be like, I'll come back to you when I'm ready. And then sometimes just fully being like, this book is not for me, and that's okay. Forcing yourself to read a book that you're not loving, or honestly, forcing yourself to read a book that you don't like, that is the easiest way to put yourself into a reading slump and make you not want to read anything. Trust me, I've been there. You do not want to get stuck in a reading slump. For me, my general rule of thumb is if a book isn't pulling me in by the 100-page mark, then that's when I really ask myself, is this worth my time? So I don't know if you needed to hear this today, but give yourself permission to stop reading books that you don't love. Habit number 2 is making your reading time the most cozy. I'm talking lots of pillows, blankets, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a matcha, get yourself some snacks. Literally set yourself up so that your reading area is perfect and you won't want to get up and you won't want to leave. This might sound crazy, but for me personally, I've noticed that my environment has a huge impact on how motivated I am and how focused I can stay on reading. So if my environment is chaotic, and I'm looking at like my kitchen and my living room right now, if those are like dirty and messy, I am not going to stay focused and stay motivated in reading in this reading chair. I just know that about myself. So if I want to have a cozy reading evening, or honestly even like a whole weekend day reading, I will clean the house first. I will make sure that my environment is clean so that way I sit down and I don't feel messy headed at all. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, turn your reading time into something you actually look forward to. So if that means like getting yourself a little treat, grab a couple Oreos, like I don't know, whatever it is that you want as a treat, grab some treats so that way you look forward to actually reading. Number 3 is one of my all-time favorite book things that I do, and it's keeping a reading journal. I track my reading in a couple ways in my reading journal. If you haven't seen my reading journal, I've posted some journal videos. Definitely check them out. I'll have one linked wherever they get linked. But like I said, I track my reading in a couple ways. I have my yearly tracker of everything stats-wise for the year. Also monthly, I go in and I add the books that I read for the month. I also like to add specific dedicated spreads for my 5-star reads. So I'll go in and I'll print stuff and just like make it all vibey and cute, and then write a little review for my 5-star reads. I started doing that this year and oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with that. It's so fun. I don't have it in me to write a review and write about every single book that I read, but when I get a 5-star, I am so excited about it. I want to write about it. I want to make this little spread. So that's been really fun, and I look forward to getting to work on this every month. I don't know. I highly recommend. It has definitely encouraged me to read more because I want to fill in my book more. Number 4 is kind of similar to reading challenges, but instead it's a little softer. It's like 75 soft compared to 75 hard, you know? And that is to set yourself little reading goals. Sometimes, even if I'm not doing a challenge for the week, a challenge for the month, or I don't know, if I'm not doing a very structured challenge, I will sit down and set a goal for myself for a day when I'm planning the week. So maybe I'll be like, okay, on Wednesday, I want to read 100 pages. And yeah, having that goal and being able to check it off for the day is just so satisfying. So if you know you're going to have a couple busy days, or you know you're going to need to relax and watch some TV after work during the week, then you could set some reading goals for the weekend. Or if you know you're only going to read at night, you could set some reading goals to finish a book by the end of the week, or I don't know, just like softer goals like that aren't as intense as reading an entire book in one day. The key here is to keep it low pressure, like I was saying. Finally, my 5th and final habit that helps me read more books is to talk about them. Obviously, I have this channel here that you are currently listening to, so if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much, and I love you. But I also talk about books on Instagram, I talk about them on TikTok, I have my Patreon where I talk about books. I just love talking about books, and I love listening to other people talk about books. I get so motivated by other booktube content and TikTok content that truly, like, scrolling sometimes keeps me motivated. There's also certain booktube creators that I'll put on, and it's like I put their video on and I'm like, ooh, okay, like I'm gonna just veg out and watch YouTube, but I watch their video and immediately afterwards have to turn it off and go grab my book because they've just motivated me to read. Anyway, I just really love talking about books and it helps me read more books, so I thought I would include that last fun little tip. And if you have a channel or you have a social media platform at all where you talk about books, definitely share them down below. I want to follow you. I want to stalk your reading habits. But that's it. Those are all of my reading routines, habits, and how I make time for reading. I hope this helps if you're trying to read more books or if you're just trying to feel inspired to read more consistently. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. I also have my Instagram, Goodreads, TikTok, all linked down below if you're interested on staying more up to date with what I'm doing, what I'm reading, and what my cute puppies are doing. And if you made it to the end of the video, definitely let me know down below what your favorite reading habit is that you do. How do you incorporate reading into your everyday routine? I'm super curious. That's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!